Well, hello everybody. I'm actually streaming this for the first time, but I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of introduce myself. My name is Erik Swenson. I'm a user experience designer, and I've been working with both Axure and Sketch, different design tools. And today's session, I'm actually going to be going over how to use Axure as a prototyping tool. So this is a way that the tool itself is pretty easy to use. I've posted a few different videos on how to use Axure, but today's session I'm going to be going over how to use Axure in and using the apple.com website as an example. We'd be going over kind of just a lightweight design, so it's not going to be super high fidelity, but also going over different breakpoints and how you would use Axure to kind of create different mobile breakpoints. Axure itself is not really like, it doesn't respond to the page. You can do a little bit of that, but it's not meant as a full prototyping for responsive design. What you would normally do, what I've created are a few pages with different set sizes that are common for doing different breakpoints. So a large scale 1440, 1024, 768, and 480. So I'm just going to get started. So in this session, really, it's going to take the apple.com website. So I'm going to create a new. We'll bring that up. And again, this is my first time live streaming, so I apologize if I'm kind of all over the place. It's one of those things you see people do it, and then you do it yourself, and you're kind of like, kind of scared to do it, but I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to go and take the, let's say, the apple.com website. So here, it's a pretty simple design. I think a lot of people refer to Apple as, very clean, crisp, and they do things, pretty good for overall user experience and design. So the main page here is actually pretty, simple. You've got a main header up here with navigation. You've got images. Each one of these are clickable, and it's a pretty simple page. You've got a pretty fat footer down the bottom. The other thing from a responsive perspective, as I make this screen a little bit smaller, you'll notice at a certain breakpoint, it actually changes to a mobile view where you'll get the menu at the top here, and then you'll be able to just size it down, and everything just stacks vertically. So what was side by side before are just stacked vertically. So that's what we're going to try to replicate in Axure, do some little bit of prototyping to kind of show how you do that. Again, I use two tools, mainly Axure for prototyping and Sketch for design. Here we're going to keep it pretty lightweight. So I'm on a Mac, so when I go to create a screenshot, this is kind of a way to kind of take the example here, is I use Command-Shift-4, which will bring out this screenshotting tool, and I'll just drag the area that I want to take a screenshot of. I'm going to then jump right into Axure. So actually, this is a kind of an interactive session. So if you want to chat or put any questions down, I have a separate screen here for anybody that wants to kind of ask a question as you go through. I'm going to try to look both at the screen as I go, but if anything that comes up, you guys want to see different things, I'm happy to kind of do that. So I'm going to take that screenshot again. And this session will be posted after into the YouTube channel. So, I'll be able to kind of post that. So here, this actually is not pasting in as I would think it would. It's like a lower resolution, which is unfortunate. But anyways, this one is pretty sure 1440 resolution, so we'll kind of just gauge it there. So the first thing I'll do is, as I'm designing out a page, I'll kind of know the different widths that I need to design for. In this example, we're kind of replicating a page that's already there, and I'm kind of just drawing over it. But I'm going to try to go as fast as I can to kind of speed up the process here. So at first, I kind of take a screenshot. If there's a certain design element that you see on the web and that you think you like, certainly those are great ways to kind of take examples. So here, I'm just going to start lock this screen back here, and I'm just going to start designing. So here I already have some assets. So here I have this PNG for the Apple logo. One thing about Axure that it is not as good as Sketch is with the vector-based imagery. In Sketch, I can actually drag and drop an EPS or some other vector files, and they'll be easily modified. Where here I have to bring in a JPG or a PNG that I found online just to be transparent. So the next thing I'll do is, if there's certain design elements, I'll use the Dev Toolbar within Chrome to specifically see different sizing. So I go under the menu, Dev Tools, and then I click on Mac here. This will give me a general feeling of what the font size is and overall what the font family is, so I can kind of get a good feeling of what that would look like. So here I would have 14px font size, and I'm going to use Helvetica as the example. So within the libraries here, I'll just drag and drop the label. It already comes in at 14. I'm going to change it to white, and then go in and change that to Helvetica New. And as I go, there's some other quick keys that I use. So if I want to replicate this to do the next one, I'll use Option Shift, and Shift allows me to go up and down vertically and side by side while also duplicating it. So I know that it's directly in line. So it's kind of like a drag and drop, so I'll just kind of do these quickly. And most of the time when I'm in Axure, it's mainly just wireframes, so you don't have to be so super specific and accurate, but it's mainly to get the point of the interactivity, and so that you can kind of have some usability testing on the design, but it's really not meant for final output to the developers. It's just to kind of get you there. All right. The next cool thing here is Axure does come in with some vector-based components. So here's a search icon. It may not be the exact icon that Apple uses on their website, but it gets it close enough that you don't have to redraw it exactly. And then I can actually recolor that by using the fill here, and it's a pretty simple. Now for this one, we can just kind of, do that real quick. Here I'll use just a box, change the size. Again, these should be pretty crude, but you get the point. And then I'll make the fill the same as the background color here, and then I'll change the corner radius to like a 2, and then make the border white. Then all I'll just do is add circle, roughing this out. And then I'll just bring this one in front, and it kind of gets that feeling of that icon there. The other thing with Axure is I don't care too much about layers and groupings and that kind of stuff where I do in Sketch. Sketch I feel like I need to be a little bit more organized. In Axure I kind of either have something above or in the front or in the back, and that's kind of all that I really care about. And then I don't really organize a whole lot within here, so I don't really take too much time organizing my layers as I do in other programs. So here I'm just going to add in the background, make this 40, and then send that to the back, change the color. There we go. So just see over here. All right, so now that I have this, the next thing that I'm going to do is you can actually set rollover states on all of these. So just to kind of see what this would look like, if you go to the website, as you hover over it, it goes to a light gray. That's pretty easy within Axure. You can actually do interaction styles. So on mouse over, we can do the font color to sort of like a darker gray here. So now, if I wanted to prototype this out, let's just say that I wanted to see what this would look like. I can actually go to Publish Preview, and what it's going to do is actually create a local version of that. So as you see, I'm hovering over this, and it's basically making those lighter color. So that's like a very, very quick prototype component. But the next thing here is I'm just going to rough out some of these other components. So I'm going to add in a box here. Actually, the next thing is kind of just taking the fonts and doing the fonts first and then doing the background. And again, anybody that has a question or anything like that, please post it in the chat. I'll just kind of try to reply to that. Don't be shy. The next thing here is the ability to easily change the font size. It's very different on different applications. So here, if I were to use the Command Shift up and down, it's going to change that font size. One second. All right. So here I use a Command Shift. Oh, sorry. Apologize about the dog here. So as I make the text larger, it's just going to make it a little bit more bold. Or Command Shift, I think it's bracket forward and back. It'll make it go larger and smaller. So here, again, I'm just using the Helvetica, and I can get very specific if I wanted to use that dev toolbar again. So here, if I click on it, actually, this, oh, sorry, this is the Axure one. I was using the wrong one. Here you can see it's a font size of 56, and it's a bold. So if I just simply go to here, I'm pretty close with 52. Again, the screenshot size may not be 100% accurate, but we can get pretty close. All right, and then again, that drag option shift. For these different type of images, I'm just going to put a placeholder, so I'm not going to get too specific with any of these to kind of bring in the real image. What Apple does on their website, they actually don't have them as easy images to draw off of, mainly because they are a little bit, sometimes they're more interactive. So again, I'm just going to keep it to like a wireframe state here. And so you can kind of get the idea. So then I can kind of show you how this would be translated to mobile. All right, I'm going to send that to the back. All right, so we're kind of starting to get a good feeling of what this is going to start looking like. Sort of align that to the center. Make this a little bit larger. I see. So this is, all right. Okay. So now the next component here is this next screen here. Again, we can take a screenshot one at a time, or we can kind of here we go. We can kind of lock that. I'm going to try to do these pretty quick. The next thing you do is actually group these as group components. Oops, I grouped the image. So I'm actually going to change this color to this gray. And the next component is this one. So I'm going to just kind of quickly do this. This one's down at the bottom, something like that. All right, so then the next one here has two panels side by side. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that. So this one also has a darker background. So for this one, I'm going to take this text, it's also the font size a little bit smaller. And again, I'm trying to rush here, but it's white. and then I'll make this one background color this. The other thing you can do is to give the feeling that there's an image back here, it's not just a solid color, is I can take this and put it back here, but I can also put the opacity down to like 20, and you'll see that I'll bring this to the front. So now it kind of feels like there's an image in the background there, and I can take this component, drag and drop. Put that over there. All right, so those are those two items there. I'll just delete the image from the background. So now if I were to prototype this and preview this, see here I can hide this, and as I scroll down I get a version of that, and actually it's interesting, I still have that same text from up above as the hover, so we'll just need to kind of remove that because it's only for the main navigation. So actually all of these, it's the other drawback with putting interactive styles on these, sometimes you don't know they have that on them. All right, so then the last one down here, we have another side by side, but you'll see these are lighter. So actually I'm just going to just do that real quick. So I'm going to clone these and bring these down. And it looks like there's a equal spacing between them. So we'll just do that. Do this the same color as this one, which is this. And watch. Might as well take a screenshot just to kind of get this. And then here we can just align these. And then there are images in the middle. Then down below here we have a dark one and then a light one. So I'm just going to take this. So with these, actually I probably should have had them as centered, so I don't have to keep center aligning them. One thing about Sketch that it does also a little bit better is if I were to have something, for example here, and I want these two items to center within this block, what I would do is I'd have all three of these, and then I would do align center. And then what it would normally do is take the container and then center anything that's within that container in the middle. But what Axure does, which is not that great, is if I do align center here, it's going to align everything center, including the box behind it. So what I end up having to do is just moving it like this and then looking at the bar just to kind of see where that aligns. All right, and then lastly, down here we have the footer. I'll just take a quick screenshot of that. I think I know what's happening here. So it's taking my other screen, so it's not taking the full resolution of that. So I'm just going to do it not as, there we go. All right. And then here I'm just gonna put a box. I'm not gonna go to the extent of the links down below, just for time. So, all right. So this is kind of a very crude way of showing the, like a wireframe of that homepage. But the next thing that I'm going to do is show you how to link certain pages. So if I were to go on any one of these links, it's going to bring me to a new page. So let's say I click iPhone. This is going to go to the iPhone page. So to do that, what I would do normally is I would add a page after, and let's call this iPhone. And if it's a direct page within that container, what you can do is make it, you can actually indent it or make it a child page, and by just dragging and dropping it underneath it. So now it's tied to that, so you can kind of expand and collapse. So it kind of gives you a way to organize your different pages. So if I go to this page, it's empty. But what I can do is, knowing that this navigation at the top is consistent across all pages, I'll just actually make that a master. So I'll convert it to the master and call it header. So now when I go to my iPhone, I can just drag and drop my header. And if I were to specify here, that it should stay within, at the top at 0, 0. There's a way to pin it so that it's always, whenever you drag it, it always stays to the top. I think I just forgot that. Here we go. Lock to master location. So here, if I were to try to move it and drop it, it's actually going to move it all the way up to the top, so it's always consistent. All right, so then here I'm just going to take a screenshot just to kind of, I'm not going to wireframe this whole thing out, but just as an example, if we were to design this page out here, I'm going to show you the ways to interact so that when you click on certain components, it'll bring you to those pages. So this is a very simple, think of it as like just hyperlinking. So I would go to the header here, and anytime I click this iPhone, there's a section under here under properties. So the style is all the different styles for the elements you're working with, but properties is a way to actually do the interactivity. So on how to make it sort of like a prototype. So here, there's two ways to do it. One is just create a link, and when I create a link, I can just link it to an individual page, and that's simply going to, if I were to preview this, if I go to the home page here and I click iPhone, it's just going to bring me directly to that page. So anytime I'm on, using a global master, you want to make sure that those are global links. So anytime you go there, it's going to go to that page. So that's pretty simple. It's just a way to do a hotspot, pretty much. There are other ways to kind of do more advanced prototyping. So in this example, on a click, you have all of these specifications, so I can show, hide, remove, do a bunch of things. A lot of this is for like if you're doing like a expand and collapse component, or you want to fade something out, or make it rotate, whatever. Here you can also get that same hyperlinking is by just clicking open link, but you have a little bit more flexibility in how that works. So here I can open a link, I can link it to an external file, a page. If I were to click this, I can say I want it in a new window or a new tab. So if I delete that first one, so this one I'm going to open iPhone in a new window or tab. I can say in a pop-up window. So there's a lot of different, let's say, you can do specifications here, so that can kind of show that. I'll just prototype this, show you what that looks like. So here, this is going to open it up in a new window. Again, these are all just sort of things that you can do within Axure as different prototyping. Not suggesting this is the best experience. So now I'm going to jump over to, I'm going to delete this. And again, if there's any questions or anything like that, again, you type it in the chat. I'll try to respond to that. And if there are any things that you do want me to cover, certainly type it in there and I will try to adjust. So the next thing here is how to adjust for different responsive breakpoints. So for what's really nice is Chrome provides a way to see those breakpoints right within the dev toolbar. So here, if I clicked on this little icon here, I'm going to go back to the home page. You could do one of two things. One, you could just resize the page and just see what that looks like. But to get very specific, if you're looking at an existing page, you can use this dev toolbar to show all those different responsive states. So here I have all these different device sizes. So if I want to see for an iPhone X, what would that size be? 375 by 812. And you can also see what that looks like directly on the page. So here I can zoom in and I can kind of see what that looks like. It even gives it a visual indicator of that scroll bar. So when you start prototyping and developing actual code, this is a great way to kind of do that. But for my example here, I'm just going to kind of break it out. So the major components here, for a desktop, the Apple site pretty much is the same. It's done this way so that if you're on your iPad and you view the Apple site, it looks pretty much like a desktop. So the only difference is that the screen is smaller and these get compressed in a little bit. So the other thing is, if you do make this a master, you might need to have different masters for each header. So when I go to this page, I'm going to go here. I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to bring it up to here. So now when I bring my header in, I'm going to copy this and you'll notice as I move this here, these are all pretty much the same, and I think I did the wrong aspect ratio anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and place these on top of this one up here. Move these slightly over. And Axure did add in some support for to try to mimic it being responsive. And I'll show you that in a second. All right, so there's our mobile for 1024. Now, go back to the home page here. So if I were to create, I'm trying to think of how that is again. That there's under well, I'm not going to get into this. I'll do another video around creating those different views, and here I'm just going to kind of mock it up. So within here, pretty much you can take the same information that I had on the home page, and I'm just going to grab all of this and paste it in. And pretty much everything resizes to that 1024. And then these just squish in. So you'll see here the sizing of these pretty much the same. So as this expands out, they get a little bit wider and smaller. So the sizing of that does change. And I'll just need to adjust to that. So these squish in. I'm not going to get it 100% accurate, but close enough. And do the same thing for these. Just going to bring them in. All right. Oop, missed this one. All right, so then the bigger part is if you get to the smaller phone. So this is where if you were to come to 480, again, some of these, like a iPhone 8 is at 375, iPhone 10, 375. So we can have a size of 375. The pluses, so the plus, this is 414. So here we can go with 375 just to be consistent. $375. So here we're going to take a screenshot of what this top header looks like. Come in here. And I'm going to lock that in. The other nice thing is with Axure, you were able to publish it out, and you could take your mobile phone and actually view it from that URL. With these different sizes, when you do preview it, you can do it so that it excludes this whole left panel. So all that you need to see is if you click on this, you could show with or without the sidebar. And it's a way of just kind of giving a URL with or without it, so you can kind of prototype it on the device itself. All right, so from here, I'm going to take this top header that we did in this one, and really all that we need is the Apple logo, the background, and this icon. And I'm going to move that down below. This one comes 375. And then for here, this Apple website uses 2 bars. So this is pretty simple. I mean, you just create a, you can use either a box and do the something like this, which is and no border. So that's interesting. If I were to put this at 1, see that I can't actually see it. So maybe a little bug there. But here I would just use lines. So I'll just do a line, match it up, make it white. Same thing here. All right, so that's kind of that mobile header. And I'll just move these up. And then you can kind of get into, again, doing the adjustments to how that looks on the phone. And again, it's pretty much just drawing over. Here, the font size gets smaller. But if I were to design this without kind of tracing over, it would just go pretty quickly. I mean, this is more tracing, but then actually designing your own custom pages. But once you have design elements that you want to replicate, then you can kind of just start designing. So here, then I can kind of just clone this. Delete the background. So the only difference here is these are all stack, and the components here stack one on top of the other. So if you already had built out all the other pages or the content, and you're just making this mobile responsive, what you could do is actually take all of that you've done, and paste it within this page, and then just adjust accordingly. So here I'm going to quickly, like I did with the other ones, it's interesting. I'm going to make these all the 375. Oops, that's the width 375. And knowing that I'm going to need more space because these are going to stack, just kind of move these down because we're going to get a really long scrolling page here. It's like I lost the background to that one. That's fine. But you'll get the overall idea of the approach here. The other thing that you can do is draw in guidelines. So here, I know this is 375, and there, if you look here, there's sort of a set margin on each side that it it fits within. So you can then also use the dev toolbar here to kind of see what those are. Probably around 15, 20 pixels. So here I can kind of bring those out. Let's say it's 20. And then simply adjust. And these are 32, 18, and you just kind of go through and design out your page. So it's kind of just adjusting as you go. These go full width. I think these are smaller, actually. How about the same size? And again, if anybody has any questions or anything that they want me to cover, so Bruce asks if there's a, will I be streaming again? Yes. I do plan on doing more streams for different tools, and I think great question, is there a short version? I think, depending on what you guys want me to do, and I think I can kind of adjust to making it a little bit shorter. I know I've been kind of going off for a while right now, but I think I plan to try to do these. Actually, this is my first stream, so I'm not really sure what what you guys want me to, how often. I do have a full-time job, but I think the timing on these and how much time I can dedicate to these, I think, I appreciate other people doing streams like this, so I'm happy to kind of adjust as needed. The one weird thing is that scheduling these, I wasn't really sure if I should post a, something that, should be done, weekly, daily, how you guys even get to know that I'm doing these streams. That's also a question. So I'm open to any suggestions on how often you guys would like to see a stream. Should it be weekly? What are the subjects that you would want me to cover? Is there specific tools? Definitely open to suggestions on what you think would be helpful for you. Certainly, I can't do this every hour of the day, but happy to think through different options. All right, so as I do this, I am going to just take a shortcut and do this. Just try to get it done here. All right, so here, very crude, what it may look like on a phone. Now, if I publish this and preview it, This is sort of an example of what that would look like. Again, it's not perfect. I'm kind of rushing through it just due to time. So that's kind of so. Victoria. All right, so Victoria, so how to kind of get into Axure fast. So prototyping, I think that's really why you're using Axure. So I think if you're a visual designer, somebody that really into design and need to make some interactive prototypes, I think you just need to kind of try different things. So I think it's just starting to work with the tool itself, looking at, Axure does have some pretty good tutorials out there on Axure.com. They do have, let's see, there's a, yeah, they have their own basic tutorials in here, where to get started, how to help. You know, there's different people that, like myself, kind of do their own videos. But I think what really helps is just kind of getting out there and trying things. So here, there's so many different things that you can do with a click on a hover or a mouse. So using the interaction tools, just look at all the different things you could do. So I'll kind of go through it quickly here, but you know, things that you can do with a hyperlink. How do you link to something? How do you scroll to a component? Like this is an anchor link. You know, show or hide. Like here, I can show and hide a particular element. So let's say this image here, I want to name it show hide image. There's just so many things that you can do, and it's almost like your own development component. So here I want to show hide this element, and I can toggle it. So as I click on that one element, I can do fades. I can do now if I do this one. So if I preview that, as I click on this, it's going to show and hide that element. So that's one super quick and easy like you know, way to interact with an element. So Bruce, thanks for letting me know about the alert. So I actually have no idea how people or how you guys even knew to get onto the stream. So I appreciate you letting me know. I may post it to my blog if there's some specific stream. So my blog that I have here, it goes through a bunch of different tutorials. I was thinking of posting on here when I was going to live stream, but I think I may just I don't know if it's like a set schedule or something like that. I can try to do a live stream at a certain time of the day. I think I think the live stream is more important if people like you have questions and I can kind of quickly answer them. I think that's where it's more important than if I were to like. These are more like pre-recorded how-tos. I think what would make a lot more sense is if there was certain questions or there was a group of things that I can answer. I think that's where the live streams may be a little bit more helpful. So Victoria, the other thing here is I hope that makes sense. Again, you can do a lot more. So here, these are the interactions. I can kind of delete those interactions. The other thing is just go through and see what you can do. The other biggest thing within Axure are these what they call dynamic panels. It's one of those things like if I created, let's take this, and there's so much more interactivity with what we call dynamic panels. It's a way to interact with it more, I guess. So this is where if I click on this, I can set text. Like here, I can change the value of a text. So let's say this one, HomePod. I guess I'm not doing a very good job talking about like all the interactions, but there's just so many. I mean, you can change text, you can set images like to certain sizes, you can enable, disable something, you can move it, you can rotate it, you can set the size, the opacity. There's different things with the repeaters. You can do animations. So I guess the question is really, the easiest part of an interactive prototype is just clicking from one screen to the other. You could build out a lot of hidden menus, hidden screens that kind of show on the page and then hide on the page. I think that's really where it comes down to, is how do you prove out something to the audience, so that if there's an interactive component on the screen, is that the right interaction? So that it's sometimes you have to specify through annotations, like if you click this, it will show the next 10 items, or show a different screen, or a modal will pop up. Those are all things that you need to kind of prove out, and why you would want it interactive. I think for adding interactive just to make it kind of flashy or whatever, I don't think it's really that important or time to spend time on that. I think so. Those are the main things that I would want to do. Make sure when I'm building a prototype, like what's the intent of that interaction? Like, are you trying to just validate it? Are you is it easier to show it than to add a lot of specifications? So all in all, I think those are the core components of building a prototype in Axure, and why you would use this tool is to kind of make it interactive, where you can go to different screens and kind of show the flow of going from one screen to the other. But I don't think making it too flashy or fancy, I don't think that would really be the reason why you would want to use that. So I think I'm going to end the stream now. But if there's anything else, I appreciate you guys jumping on, and I hope to do more around Sketch and different tools. But I think that's it. But I appreciate your time, and I look forward to doing more of these. Thanks.